The film begins with Jess kneeling on the kitchen floor, dabbing at the paint her son Tommy accidentally spilled. Out of nowhere, a knock echoes through the house. Jess pauses mid-wipe, she walks to the front door and pulls it open. No one is there. The porch is empty. Later, she loads a bag into the trunk of her car. She gets in and drives off, heading toward the Florida marina, leaving her house and her son behind. Jess arrives and walks down the dock, greeted by Greg, who smiles at her with familiar warmth. But Jess looks distracted, distant, as if something is weighing on her. The sailboat, named Triangle, waits in the water, already boarded by the others. Victor, Greg's younger housemate, is securing supplies near the cabin. Sally and Downey, a chatty married couple, are already sunbathing and talking about Greg's efforts to play matchmaker. Heather, a woman Greg invited as a potential date, sits awkwardly off to the side, quickly picking up on Greg's attention toward Jess instead. Jess doesn't mingle much. She seems more absorbed in her thoughts than the company around her. The boat pushes off into the open sea, the group easing into the rhythm of the waves. Hours pass. The wind picks up. Victor takes control at the mast, adjusting sails as the boat sways slightly under the growing gusts. Then the wind dies all at once. A sudden silence blankets the sea. The boat stops moving, the sails hang limp. The group looks around in confusion. The water is still. The horizon is calm. But then, a black mass of clouds forms out of nowhere in the distance. The storm comes fast, too fast. Greg grabs the radio and calls for help. No one answers. Static hisses back at him. The storm bears down. Rain lashes sideways. The boat rocks violently. A wall of water rises in the distance. The wave crashes over the boat with explosive force, lifting the boat and flipping it. Screams are swallowed by the roar of the sea. Everyone is thrown into the churning water. Moments later, the storm is gone. The survivors surface, gasping for breath. They climb onto the upturned hull of their boat. As time passes, they sit quietly on the overturned boat, drying in the sun. Then, in the distance, they spot it, a massive ocean liner, gliding toward them with silent grace. They wave and shout. On the deck, a shadow moves. Someone is there, a gangway lowers gently into the water. Without a word, they begin climbing aboard. Jess is the last to reach the top. She pauses at the deck's edge and scans the ship. Something tightens in her chest. The place feels familiar in a way she can't explain. A feeling settles deep in her bones, she's been here before. They fan out slowly, moving down a wide hallway. The corridors are immaculate, but silent. They call out. No answer. The ship seems completely deserted. Greg suggests they find someone, anyone, to explain what's going on. Then Victor spots something on the floor. He bends down and picks up a small ring of keys. Jess steps forward, taking them from his hand. She stares at them, her face draining of color. They're her keys. Same chain, same flower keyring. The others exchange looks of unsettlement. The group enters a large entertainment room, a grand space, with rows of old-fashioned chairs and tables. Jess glances down at her wristwatch and notices something strange. It stopped. As she looks up at the ship's large wall clock. It stopped on the exact same time. She turns around instinctively, then sees a flicker of movement at the end of the corridor. Victor bolts after the figure without hesitation, disappearing around the corner. Jess hesitates, then turns to Greg, urging him to listen. She tells him that the place feels familiar. She pleads with him, insisting something is very wrong and they need to get off the ship. Greg doesn't take her seriously. He thinks she's shaken from the storm, maybe even traumatized. Suddenly, a soft hissing noise drifts from one of the nearby rooms. Jess begs Greg not to go, as she feels like something sinister is happening. But Greg dismisses it. Jess stands frozen, then heads in the opposite direction. Later, she walks through a grand dining hall. Suddenly, Victor stumbles in from the side hallway. He's soaked in blood. Jess rushes to him, but the moment she gets close, Victor's expression twists into rage. Jess struggles, gasping, clawing at his grip. She manages to knee him off of her. Suddenly, a gunshot fires. Jess creeps toward the source of the noise. As she steps into the next room, Sally comes at her screaming. She accuses Jess of killing Greg. Jess has no idea what Sally's talking about. Then, another shot rings out. Sally collapses, then Downey falls next to her. Jess screams and runs through the corridors in blind panic. She bursts into a kitchen, and grabs a knife. She steps out onto the deck, blade in hand. Then, a sharp blow crashes into the back of her skull. Jess reacts fast and wrestles for the gun and manages to run off. She scrambles away and grabs a hammer. The two clash. Steel clashes with wood. The killer staggers back under her blows. Jess demands to know who she is. The killer hesitates, breathing heavily beneath the mask. She tells Jess she has to throw her off the ship. Jess doesn't understand. But in a final push, she throws the killer over the ship. Jess stumbles back, panting, confused and shaken. Then, from somewhere distant, voices. Familiar ones. Echoing faintly across the deck. She walks toward the sound. When she peers over the edge, her breath catches in her throat. In the water, she sees the others, Sally, Downey, Victor, Greg, and herself, clinging to the wreckage of the capsized triangle. Jess reels back in horror. It's exactly how they looked when they first saw the ship. She then hides from them, watches them board the ship all over again. As she panics, she accidentally drops her keys. They clatter on the floor, and she's forced to run off. From her hiding place, she watches her group wander into the dining room, repeating their steps. Her duplicate is among them, the same expressions. Then the other Jess notices her. She runs off again and Victor catches up with her on the deck. Jess tries to explain. She tells him that something is wrong, she's seen everything happen before. Victor doesn't believe her. He tries to calm her down. But she grabs him, pleading, shaking him, desperate for him to understand. Unfortunately, she pushes too hard. Victor stumbles back and crashes into a metal fixture. A jagged hook pierces the back of his head. Jess stares in horror. She steps back, overwhelmed, and runs. She stumbles through a hallway marked for the crew. In the sailors' quarters, she finds a room, cluttered with paper, and writing scrawled everywhere. Pages upon pages. All in her handwriting. Written, "Kill them all to get off the ship." Her heart pounds. In the corner, she sees something, a burlap sack, boots, a shotgun. She realizes it now. The masked figure was her all along. Does this mean she has to kill them too? But Jess refuses. Later, she carefully steps back out into the corridor. She finds Victor, bloodied and still alive. Suddenly, she hears footsteps of others coming. The duplicate Jess arrives and finds Victor, still groaning. The real Jess steps out, shotgun aimed. They lock eyes with her copy, both freeze in shock. As Jess lowers her gun, the other copy runs off. Jess stays with Victor, urging him to hang on. Then another gunshot cracks through the silence. Jess sprints through the corridor and finds Greg, lying dead. Downey and Sally blame her for killing him, but Jess pushes them out of the line of fire, warning them that they have to leave now. She tells them everything she can. She then hands Downey the shotgun, telling him not to trust anyone. Then she races off to find Victor. Downey and Sally, terrified and confused, keep moving. Then another Jess approaches them, calm, familiar, confident. She tells them to come with her. She leads them into a side room. Then, attacks the couple, but Sally manages to escape. Not long after, the real Jess appears. She sees Sally running and gives chase. She yells, begging Sally to stop, but Sally doesn't know who to trust anymore. Jess follows Sally's blood trail, which leads near the edge of the ship. Jess is not alone, but with all of her copies lifeless. Jess approaches slowly, eyes locked onto her. She gently kneels in front of her, her voice soft, telling Sally that she didn't do this. But Sally recoils, calling her insane. Jess then hears something nearby. Two women are fighting. Jess stumbles toward the sound and sees two versions of herself brawling at each other. She then sees another group, Greg, Victor, Downey, Sally and herself waving their arms, yelling for help, just like before. Jess rushes away, no longer panicking, now determined. She descends deeper into the belly of the ship, into the engine room. She tries switching off the engines but nothing works. Then something clicks in her mind. She knows what needs to happen. She goes to the bathroom and writes a message telling the others to go to the theater, the same one she had seen earlier. She opens the closet and pulls out the familiar outfit as the killers. She watches silently from the shadows as the group stirs again, talking, splitting up. And one by one, she strikes. She shoots Downey. Then Sally. She ambushes Greg. But every kill wears at her. Then, she chases the last version of herself. They fight. A brutal, desperate struggle. But this time, her copy gets the upper hand. The masked Jess is overpowered, thrown to the edge of the ship, and flung into the sea. Hours later, she wakes up washed ashore on a beach. She gets up and hitchhikes for a ride back home. As she arrives, her eyes scan the windows. Inside, she sees her son and herself. Living the same day all over again. Jess's breath catches in her throat. Her mind spins. She realizes what she must do. She then kills Jess, wraps the body in a sheet, drags it to the car, and loads it into the trunk. Then she buckles Tommy into the back seat and starts driving. Her voice is soft, soothing. She tells him everything's going to be alright. As they drive, she tries to connect with him. Suddenly, the car crashes. Jess stumbles out of the wreckage, dazed but unharmed, but her son has lost his life. A passing taxi driver pulls over. The driver speaks gently, asking if she wants a ride. She nods and gets into the cab. He drives her to the harbor. And there they are again. Ready to board the Triangle. Now she understands, there is no escape, only the cycle. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe for more notifications. Until next time. See you soon.